Today I'm going to share with you the 3 signs that a man is disconnected from his masculine energy. 2 of these signs are more obvious, whereas 1 is very subtle, and you have most likely never heard this connection before that I'm going to make in this episode. This episode is not just for men. As a woman listening, you will gain really important and powerful insights that will allow you to understand men better. I will share a lot of practical steps in today's episode. For the men listening, if you take this episode to heart and you apply immediately after this episode what I'm about to share with you, you can create really powerful, lasting shifts in your life. My name is Lorin and I'm a coach, author, and hypnotherapist. I help you to understand masculine and feminine dynamics. Sign number 1. When a man lacks a strong spine, lacks a backbone. For men, it is extremely important in today's world to learn to connect with their heart, to become emotionally available and learn to hold space for their internal experience. But it is equally important for men to cultivate a strong spine, a strong backbone, or we can call it a masculine edge. Let me give you an example to make this more practical. Recently, I was coaching a couple, and one specific challenge they faced is that the woman felt very unsafe in specific key moments where she felt that her husband was not standing up for her. Another woman was flirting with him and also putting his wife down in little and subtle and nasty ways. And he wanted to avoid conflict. So he tried to create harmony. He tried to find some middle ground. And she felt that he wasn't standing up for her. She felt and really desired for him to set a boundary, to express clearly that he will not tolerate such behavior or such words. But he thought that being spiritual or being in his heart or living his truth was to try to kind of minimize conflict and to avoid any form of tension. And what happens here for many men is that being a pleaser becomes confused with truly standing in the power of their heart. When a man is truly rooted in his heart, he is the opposite of a pleaser. A pleaser is disconnected from his heart because when we please, we are inauthentic. How could that be connected to the heart? How could that be connected to love? The highest expression of love is the expression that is in service to the highest good. This means if it's the highest good to create harmony, amazing. But in this unique example, a boundary or a clear value had to be expressed. Nothing too drastic, but it could have been as simple as, I do not tolerate such comments about my wife. And that's it. One sentence, and this is just one example, there are many other ways to do this, but one sentence that expresses what? His commitment, his fierceness to protect his own truth, but also to protect his loved ones, his ability in this moment to stand in his power, to stand in his truth. And as I coach them through this, immediately we notice, number 1, he actually deep down wanted to show and wants to show up in this way. And she felt deeply safe just as we went into this and about the possibility of that. And then they started applying it. And of course, what happens? There was so much more safety, so much more magnetism, so much more trust between the two. It's not about doing something really grand and specific. It's about a very key moment where his wife is being disrespected. And in that moment to embody leadership, a sense of embodied strength and presence to really be able to stand his ground. And this is what it means to have a strong spine and a backbone. It means having a masculine edge. And being able to show up in this way, and this also relates to setting boundaries, protecting his loved ones. This is incredibly magnetic to the feminine, and it allows us men to feel much more confident within ourselves. We want to be the spiritual warrior who is deeply connected to his heart. And of course, if possible, who wants to avoid some form of drama, fight, or anything along those lines. But if necessary, is able to stand in his highest power and truth, even if that means confrontation, even if that means having the uncomfortable conversation, even if that means setting a boundary and disappointing others, disappointing their shadow, triggering other people's shadow. In more practical terms, it is so important for a man to connect, we can call this, with his dark masculine energy. One aspect of spiritual growth or embodying your healthy masculine core is connecting with the love and your heart and compassion. Another aspect is your dark masculine energy. We could also refer to this as warrior energy. Please note, when I use the word dark, I don't mean dark in the sense of shadow or evil. I mean there is a darker expression that is still conscious, an expression that has an edge to it. Dark masculine energy is rooted in the lower chakras, specifically the root and the sacral chakra. What they symbolize is the connection to the earth, raw, primal masculine energy. And for so many men on their spiritual path, they find themselves disconnected from their lower body. They find themselves in a place where they're not able to embody this raw and primal masculine energy. There are many reasons for this. One of them is that men don't have a powerful framework in today's world when it comes to awakening, when it comes to stepping into their highest power and truth as a man in today's world. These two lower chakras also symbolize grounding, the importance for a man to be able to be grounded and stand with both feet on the ground. So much of the spiritual work is so dreamy and so in the clouds. And it's great to be connected to spirit, or whatever label or name you want to give it, whatever you feel most connected to. In my world, they're all one and the same. And at the end of the day, embodiment is the ability, all these dreamy and ideas, to be able to apply these things, to become the teaching, to experience the teaching. Grounding it means grounding it into everyday life, because that's where their true transformation starts to unfold. When a man is disconnected from his dark masculine energy, it means he will most likely struggle with pleasing tendencies. He might have some form of connection with his heart and compassion, but there is no grounding of that spiritual depth. There is no grounding of all these spiritual concepts. They remain more in the cloud and lead to pleasing tendencies. And showing up in this way symbolizes a disconnect with a man's deep masculine and healthy masculine core. They create a deep sense of insecurity as well. Because when you as a man don't feel that you're standing with both feet on the ground, and all these spiritual teachings are more in your head rather than an embodied reality in your everyday life, where their power unfolds through your breath, through your words, through your service, through how you show up, then you're not going to feel confident. You're not going to feel secure within yourself. And no matter how much you try to please, as long as you are engaging in pleasing tendencies at a subtle level, it becomes much harder for others to lean on you, for others to trust you as a leader, to trust you as a man, because there remains this sense of wanting to avoid discomfort, wanting to avoid confrontation, not being able or not feeling able, because you are capable and able to do anything, but not feeling capable or able in that moment to really stand your ground and to protect those who are in need of your protection and service. A woman needs to feel at a deeper level, yes, you're connected to your heart, amazing, but should there be a very challenging moment that you are going to be fucking standing in your highest power, whatever that means, you will protect her and stand up for her and your truth at all costs. So let's get practical. How can you Connect with your dark masculine energy more. How can you work through pleasing tendencies? Number one, and this is also important for women listening, this is actually how you can work through pleasing tendencies. Start practicing saying no more often. So saying no is fundamental to work through the pleaser archetype. Because by saying no, you will be quickly confronted with the disappointment you try to avoid by pleasing others. The pleaser within you ties his or her self-worth to making others happy, not seeing them disappointed. It might look as if it's about them, but it's actually more about yourself, because your self-worth is tied up about not disappointing others. Because if you do disappoint others, then you don't feel you are worthy. You don't feel in your power. You don't feel in your center. So pleasing is less about others and more about an inside selfish gain that masks as devotion to another. Saying no, specifically saying no in a yes, loving way, but also in a grounded way, in a clear way and fierce if necessary. This means not overly explaining yourself, taking up space and owning when you are a no for a situation, for whatever arises, an invitation. Owning that no. You don't have to, some who work for the pleaser archetype, then go to an extreme. We don't want to go to an extreme. You can still be kind, honoring, and respectful towards others while still honoring your no, respecting your time, and also standing in your truth. The key is not overly explaining yourself, being very clear in your no. And as you learn to say no more often, even to the person that is most important to you, right? When they say, hey, let's do this, and you actually don't want to do that, like go to this place, you really don't feel it. And if you don't express that and then respond in a very vague way where they don't really know what it is that you want, and then you end up doing the thing, but you're not connected to it. You haven't been honest in the first place. Your energy is not there. Your presence is not there. You're creating suffering through this internal conflict. And then you are there. Then she or the other person feels that you don't really actually want to be there. They feel confused. There is resentment inside yourself. There is such a unconscious dynamic that creates so much pain and creates a very vicious cycle, making it very difficult for you to respect yourself and for others to respect your truth and to trust your word and who you are, because they don't feel that you can express your needs and wants clearly. And for a relationship to thrive, needs, wants, and values have to be communicated clearly, have to be expressed clearly. Paradoxically, yes, sometimes you will annoy people and disappoint people by saying no, but paradoxically, in the long run, people will respect you more because they can see that energetically you are respecting your truth, and people respond to you based, not always, but usually based on your level of respect towards yourself. And as you respect yourself at the highest level, others respect you more. Number 2, jot this down as well. No vagueness in your speech. This might be even more important for those of you struggling with pleasing tendencies. This is specifically important for men right now. I would reframe that and talk about this slightly differently when I would talk about pleasing tendencies with the feminine. But talking about the masculine energetic, it's about no vagueness in your speech. Often when there are pleasing tendencies, when you are disconnected from your dark masculine energy, then for instance, your partner asks you a question and you don't answer clearly. You don't say, I want this, I want that, this is what I want, expressing your values, expressing your needs, expressing your wants. You kind of give an in-between answer. And this vagueness creates unsafety for her because she doesn't know where you are at. She doesn't know what you truly want. And if she doesn't know what you want, where you're going, what your needs are, then she cannot fully trust you as a man. So why are you doing this? Because you're trying to avoid disappointing her. But I can tell you this, by expressing your wants and needs, even if that means She for a brief moment feels, oh wow, I thought you would be really into this, but actually you aren't, whatever it is, right? That's okay, because in the long run, she is going to respect you more because she can trust that you will speak up. And when you like something, you will say so. And when you don't like something, you will say so. And this being impeccable with your word, being so intentional with your wants and needs, creates a deep sense of attraction and a deep sense of safety and trust. Even if in the short term, it might mean for her to feel for a moment, oh wow, I thought maybe. But then in the long run, specifically in the right relationship, it will create even deeper intimacy and even deeper connection, because a relationship is meant to ultimately embody the virtue of truth. And this is the most truthful way of embodiment, being, and communicating. Sign number 2, a lack of sexual passion, a lack of arousal, a sense of disconnect with your sexual energy. This is very, very subtle. Most people normally do not create the link between this and being disconnected from your masculine energy. So when you have a lack of sexual passion, a lack of arousal, a sense of feeling numbed out and disconnected from your masculine energy, so there might be shame about expressing your true desires in the bedroom sexually with a woman, with a partner. There might be fear, hesitancy, performance anxiety in the bedroom. She desires to be ravished deeply by you, and you inside feel this block, feel this numbness, feel this sense of emotional overwhelm. There is some form of emotional turmoil and challenge that's not allowing you to actually really access your primal sexual energy in a healthy, empowering, and connected way. This will especially happen with a woman who is more conscious. This might seem like a paradox, but often as men, our conditioning around sex and intimacy is so unconscious and so disconnected that then when we are with a very conscious woman and we feel the waves of love that emanate from and radiate from her heart into ours as we become intimate. In that moment, there might be a total shutdown. We're not shutting down because we don't like her or because you're not attracted to her. You experience a shutdown because there is an overwhelm of emotion. You are not used to experience. Your nervous system has perhaps never experienced sexual energy flowing, connected with the deep emotion and the deep sense of love. Maybe there was a sense of lack of love, a void, and by habitually engaging in this unconsciously for so many years, your body shuts down, your nervous system that's so uncertain, that's unfamiliar. So for men, what can happen is performance anxiety. What can happen is no longer being able to get it up, quote unquote, in the bedroom. But it's actually quite the opposite. It's not that you don't desire her. It's that in that moment there is an emotional overwhelm. You're overwhelmed by the love and by the sacredness of this experience. So what is the answer? The answer is to learn to hold your internal emotional experience. And number 2, there is a fear of giving up control, which means surrender needs to take place. Let's put it in this way to not make it too abstract. When you have performance anxiety, your performance anxiety is a way of trying to control what's happening in the bedroom. Why do you need to control? Because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your intuitive ability to lead the experience in the bedroom into a really sacred and divinely beautiful experience for you both. There is a sense of, oh, I need to control this. What is going to happen? Because if I don't know what's going to happen, then I don't feel confident. Can you see how this is completely connected to your internal level of insecurity? You don't feel that you can trust yourself. You don't feel confident when you don't have control in the sense that you know exactly what is going to happen. So 2 things need to happen. Number 1, learning to hold space for that emotional overwhelm inside yourself. And this emotion overwhelm is the very similar energetically to when you are extremely stressed out, and rather than being able to take some time and ground and regain your center, you start projecting it outwards. That kind of overwhelm has a similar energetic to when you're in the bedroom, you experience these waves of love and you shut down because it feels too much. And the other bit is the surrender bit. And that's really hard because surrender is often connected as a feminine quality. And while it is true that it's more of the characteristic of a feminine quality, surrender, there is this spiritual warriorship that is connected to surrender. Surrender to your higher purpose. Surrender to your deeper calling. Surrender to the experience in the bedroom to feel that mystical, deep love that emanates from her heart into yours. And you don't know how she's going to show up. She's wild, she's sensual, she's so deeply connected to a sense of eroticism that is extremely mystical that you might have had no idea that existed in the first place, but you feel it. And in that moment, to be able to trust yourself, trust your heart, trust your cock, trust your body. Wow. That creates a magnetism, an attraction. It's a divine unfolding in that moment. What does it mean to surrender? Surrender is not some kind of difficult, challenging thing that no one understands and it's all in the clouds. Surrender. Surrender simply means to let go of your ideas of how things have to be and ultimately to let go of control. To allow something deeper within you to guide you. And what is that? We can call it your higher self. We can call it spirit. We can call it God. We can also call it your presence, your deeper self in that moment that knows what to do, that knows how to show up, that knows how to access your sexual energy in a healthy way, express that, and to create a really powerful or beautiful and deeply aligned experience. The moment you try to control is the moment your heart closes. The moment you start to obsessively overthink. There is no blood flow. All the energy is in your head. Or there's less blood flow, not no blood flow. And you lose connection to that deeper presence, to that deeper self, to your intuitive masculine leadership in the bedroom. And as you lose connection of that, she feels that. And the energy is more of an energy of insecurity. And this is then what leads to this performance anxiety, hesitation, and that disconnect that no one can put a label towards, but it is there, you both feel it, and it causes a lot of suffering and pain for you both. The key here is, of course, creating safety in your body. Feeling safe to express your needs, but not just your needs as we discussed before when working for the pleaser. Also being able to express your sexual needs, desires, wants in a healthy way. While, of course, respecting her heart and making sure she feels safe in that. When you truly feel safe in your body, safe to let go and allow your deeper presence to be embodied, then there will be no fear in the bedroom. So I invite you to jot down 2 key questions. Number 1, how can I create more safety in my life? And the way to answer this is by daily spiritual practice. So ultimately, how can I create a daily routine? I teach this in my programs. I teach this in my couples programs, in my men's programs. And of course, for women, I teach the embodiment practices to create more safety in my women's programs as well. The way I have created safety in my body was specifically by rigorous spiritual practice. It's not just that. The practice then has to be applied in everyday life by expressing your needs, by expressing your wants, by speaking your highest truth. But the practice is what creates the fundament and the energy to allow that truth to flow. And then the practice continues in its embodied form through relationship. So it's the practice and then applying this energy that you create and cultivate within yourself in a relationship. Miss out on the second bit and it's better than doing nothing, but it's not enough. There are these 2 things, but the fundament remains creating and cultivating that deeper sense of safety. And breath work, for instance, is a very powerful way to do this. I practice a lot of breath work and I teach very specific masculine forms of breath work in my men's groups, for instance. And of course, I also go into this in my couples programs. The other question I invite you to jot down is, how would it feel to release control in the bedroom and to just be able to trust yourself? To let the passion and your desires, sexual desires, flow freely without worry and hesitation. I invite you to jot that down, to write down how that would feel, to connect with that reality. As you write it down and start to connect deeper with that reality, you start to create a somewhat experience of that possibility, which means it starts to draw you closer. It's the beginning step of getting closer to this reality. Sign number 3, passive energy. Living an ordinary life. No life is ordinary. Everyone can have an extraordinary life because the quality of our life is determined by the level of presence, focus, and the quality of our energy that we give it. How we show up to each moment. That is what makes our life extraordinary. It's less about externally kind of success we achieve. It's all about our internal state from moment to moment. So when a man is being passive, when a man is embodying a passive energy, then that's of course a very strong sign that a man is disconnected from his masculine energy. When a man is very passive, specifically in relationship, doesn't initiate, then it most likely means that there is a lack of vision, there is a lack of direction, and there is a lack of purpose. Or what could be is that your vision is very dreamy, all in the clouds. There's a lot of talking, but there is no doing. There's no applying things at a practical level. The bigger the gap between your ideas, thoughts, and dreams, and applying these things in your daily life, in your everyday life, the bigger the gap, the more confused, ungrounded, nervous, and anxious and insecure you're going to feel as a man. So a rigorous and consistent practice I have in my own life is whenever I'm like, oh, dreamy, these ideas, this vision, okay, all great, but how do I ground it? How do I make practical steps out of this? That's all nice, but unless I take the practical steps, unless I put in the work, unless I give it my focus, how do I get to this high level? Well, how do I get it one step at a time? And by giving each step my deepest focus and presence, because on each step you either fail, but then you learn something, but you always move forward. It's this effort, this energetic effort of presence and focus that you give each step. Many people talk and dream, but very few people put in the work to actually apply this at a practical level, because that's where it gets hard. That's where you are confronted with your self-sabotage behavior, your unworthiness, your childhood wounding, whatever is inside you that's still holding you back from stepping into your highest power, from really connecting with your healthy masculine energy. So the way to do this is to create a clear vision of where you want to go, to start to really identify your purpose, right? Both internally and externally, and ideally the two should be connected, if possible. And if not, find ways to connect them. So the way I would do it is jot down, what is my deepest vision? Where do I want to be in, say, 5 years' time from now? And then the even more important question, how can I make this practical? What are the consistent habits, actions, practices that I need to do to ensure that I am going in that direction, that I'm moving closer to the reality that I want to create? And once as a man you are clear about your direction in life, where you are going, which step you are taking right now, that level of clarity will be embodied in your energy. It will be felt as others by a deeply powerful, confident, authentically confident energy. It will have a masculine edge to it. It will have a deep sense of, this man knows who he is. This man knows where he's going. It will create deeper respect with other men because they feel you're really intrinsically connected to this value of direction, purpose, and mission as a man. At the same time, the feminine will feel she can trust you much more. She can lean more onto you because she knows that you know every fucking moment what you are doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, then at least you're putting energy and focus to find out what it is that you're doing. She can still trust you then. It's not that you have to have it perfectly figured out. Forget about perfection. Forget about it has to be perfect. Purpose can change, deepen, shift. That's all fine. But keeping your focus there. And then when you know what you're doing in this life, then you will always grow. You will never live an ordinary life because you're always focused on each step, on moving closer, being present, and also simultaneously connected to the highest vision. Now, to summarize, this is what connects you with your deep masculine core. This is what allows you to really embody your healthy masculine energy. To summarize, number one, cultivate a strong masculine spine, a backbone, an edge. This means connecting with your dark masculine energy, working for pleasing tendencies. Really being able to ground all these spiritual concepts of love, compassion, and all of that, but in a way that you're standing with both feet on the ground, and if necessary, you stand in your power, you stand in your truth to protect your own truth and to protect those in need, to protect specifically your loved ones, those who need your service, presence, and energy. Number two, learning to trust yourself in the bedroom, learning to hold space for the emotional overwhelm, specifically when you are experiencing deep intimacy with a woman who is more conscious or who is perhaps herself deep on the path. Now, the most important thing there is to connect with a reality and how it would feel. To let go of this control, to no longer need this control, to still feel safe and secure inside yourself, because that is true power. And number three is having a strong vision, at the same time always being focused on how you can make this practical. If you know where you're going, who you are, what your needs are, then others can lean on you, others can trust you, and you create so much safety for everyone around you. I've given you many action steps here. Now is the moment of choice. You can leave it and think, I'll get back to it later, forget about it, continue going in the same spiral, not follow through, or you can take action. You can listen back to what I shared, jot down, reflect, journal, and start to actually apply these things in your everyday life to the best of your capacity. Because that is when you become the embodiment. That is the bridge, and that bridge only you can create with focused awareness. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am deeply grateful to have you here and to be of service in your journey. For me to continue to serve you at the deepest level, it would mean the world to me if you can leave the show 5 stars or a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. The reason why is because it allows us to reach more people, and the more people we reach, the more we can create transformation with this deep work that goes to the very core. Now, this will only take a few seconds. If you have 30 seconds or 45 seconds, 60 seconds, you can leave a short review. 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, sentences about your experience with the Masculine and Feminine Dynamics podcast. What changes have you experienced? What insights have you gained? How does listening to this show make you feel? What shifts do you notice inside you? Whatever briefly you want to share. This goes even further, and if you share it with other people, post it on your stories on your social media, all of these things help us to reach more people. And I would be immensely grateful if you just take a few seconds to do this, because it allows me and us and my team to serve you even deeper and even more powerfully. If you want to benefit from other free offerings, I do have several other free offerings. For instance, I've got the Shadow Work in Relationships ebook. I've got other ebooks. I send out an email every Friday entirely for free. You can subscribe to that. You can find all of this in the show notes, or head over to lorinkren.com/newsletter or lorinkren.com/books.